Hello, online pipe community. It's Ethan, Parsimonious Piper. With whom do I have the pleasure of speaking today?
Hello, everyone. I'm Danny, or the Ordinary Gentleman, or the Society of Ordinary Gentlemen, or TSOG, or TSOG, or it comes up so many different ways, but mostly just Danny.
Well, Danny, tell us a little bit about yourself. As little or as much as you want. Where you live, what you do, what makes you tick.
Well, I'm in Tennessee. I like Tennessee. Tennessee's a pretty nice place,
It is.
and I'm at in school right now. Went back to school and getting a degree in computer aided design and drafting, which is quite interesting.
Hmm.
Do a little bit of architecture is my specialty at the moment. Doing houses, HVAC system layouts, basically whatever they put in front of us to do at the moment.
Now, are you also going to be following up with a degree in architecture or in any?
At this point, I want to continue on to get something they call an AP in a LEED certification. So that does it's all environmental standpoint stuff. So high efficiency for insulation, all that sort of stuff. The whole goal of it is to make more efficient buildings, which is of course a key point for all of your major players nowadays.
Hmm.
If you can save even a 0.5% of efficiency on something like a million square foot warehouse, the energy cost savings and everything is pretty big. So everybody's leading towards that LEED style certification in their architecture.
Yeah, that certainly is. There's a wide open field there. Before we get any further, little housekeeping. In a large Pipe by Lee, love it. Another bowl for me of the London Flake I've been smoking this week. How about you? Have you got anything going?
Right now it's Pegasus. Pegasus is the thing that I'm enjoying. I don't think the little video thing has come out yet. I think that's Wednesday. But Ghost Cobb would
Yeah,
not stop talking about Pegasus. Like
Sean
I'm
loves the
sure
stuff.
the man has like 3 dozen pipes that are nothing but Pegasus. It's all that ever goes in them.
Yeah, he definitely loves the stuff.
But
Well, let's dive right into how long have you been smoking a pipe and what got you interested in the pipe?
that would be probably no more than 6 months, that's for sure. But I think it's less than that, maybe 3 months, 4 months, something like that. And oddly enough, what got me interested in it is I was reading a bunch of old drafter manuals. And in one of the books, there's a bunch of gentlemen, and they're standing around an old school blueprinting table. And all of them, you got, of course, the one engineer, he's standing in the center, and he's doing the stereotypical engineer pointing at drawing. And then there's a bunch of dudes crowded around, and every single one of them have a pipe clenched. And they're just sitting here staring at drawings, and it was just this classic look to it. Like there was just this nostalgia of it all. And I'm like, I think I want to try out a pipe. Never done it before, and luckily we've got a pretty nice local brick and mortar. And I went in there and asked like entirely too many questions
Mm,
to the guy behind the counter.
no such thing.
He's a good dude though. He's a really good dude. I ended up drafting him a Peterson. I went and sat down at my drawing board and just hand drew a 60 76. Anyway, like Irish spigot,
Mm,
and just sat down and found an old Peterson blueprint and just re-replicated it by hand. That's
cool.
pretty cool.
Hmm.
Framed it up, gave it to him. I was like, "Hey, thanks for helping me out. Here's your nice blueprint." But I ended up starting off with a Bones pipe.
Oh
Got
yeah.
got one of the Bones, a classy apple shape. Can't remember the first thing I put in it, but
I don't have one of those yet, but boy, I hear nothing but good things about them.
well, I just think they're nifty. I think that's the whole reason I went with it is like just the whole flawedness to it, but it picks up character and there's
Hmm.
just something romantic about it. but it's like it's got all these imperfections, but it's still high quality. I think I've got it sitting around somewhere. I don't know if it'll show up, but no, that's the new Bones pipe. I got a whole bunch of them rattling around in an Ontario Ferente cigar box. But
That works. Oh, there you go.
that guy, pretty nice looking.
Mm-hmm. That it is.
But yeah, that was the first one.
And you don't remember what you first smoked? Was it an English, an aromatic? Do you remember that much?
It was I do. It was Golden Harvest, whatever Golden Harvest is.
Hmm.
Some sort of light aromatic, sort of vanilla-y thing, which is not my thing.
Was that a house blend?
Yeah, yeah. It's one of I can't even think of the name of the place. That's gonna bother me. I feel like that's a terrible. I'm supposed to be here talking about stuff, and I'm like, can't even remember the name of the shop.
Oh,
I'm in there all the time.
If it had a vanilla type or honey type flavor to it, it might have been a rebranding of something like Lane 1Q.
It's definitely not Lane 1Q.
Oh, really? Okay.
I know for sure it's not Lane 1Q because I do have that jar right there is full of Lane 1Q.
All right.
And I cannot stand the stuff. I get that it's like everybody's go-to, but they're like Lane 1Q. It's one of the best-selling bulk blends ever.
It is.
And
it's not the best.
To me, it tastes like air and it bites. Like I don't get any sort of flavor or anything that I particularly enjoy. It's just light, semi-sweet, and it's something about whatever they put on it. It just bites too heavy, tears my mouth up.
As you get further into your pipe smoking journey and learn to do what takes most of us a long time, and that is slow down. Chances are good that you'll start getting flavor out of it. That doesn't mean you'll like it. That's what happened to me with aromatics. I learned to taste them and then decided, even though I taste them, I don't particularly care for them. They're just not very interesting to me.
The aromatic thing, just nothing about it is my style. Like when I enjoy craft beers, I like saisons, anything sour, big bold stouts or porters, anything with a bunch of rye in it, so it's nice and spicy. Same thing with whiskeys. I want sour mashes, rye, big barrel taste. Anything that's that vanillas, creams, cherries, that sort of thing. It's just other than Viking's Blood Mead. That's about the only thing I enjoy cherry in.
Now that I'm not familiar with.
It's a melomel is what they would call it. It's not technically a true mead, but honey wine. And then once you've made your honey wine, they're just stuffing a whole bunch of choke cherries off in there, and it turns red. For whatever reason, since it's red and mead, everybody's like, it's Viking related now, and there's a whole folklore thing behind the Viking's blood. I don't know if there's any truth to it all, but it's a good story, I guess.
Sure. Well, and you know, a good story always has just enough truth to make it interesting, but not enough to get you caught. It's just a good story.
I figure that they were definitely making wine at the time, and since they were making wine, they would have made wine out of anything that had sugar in it. Mm-hmm. If there was cherries laying around, they would have made wine out of it.
Yeah.
So like, did they make it? Yes, probably. Was it some sort of huge pillar to their culture that they made this particular type of wine? Probably not, but I got big into trying to study that at one point in time.
But the lore is what makes it interesting. So, like me, you're not into aromatics. What blends are you leaning toward at this point?
Well, the Pegasus stuff is pretty nice.
Yeah,
I'm liking that. I haven't tried a whole awful lot of different blends. Some local like brick and mortar style house blend stuff. I've tried quite a few of those, and I couldn't even tell you really what they're made up of, because to me they're just the number 4 or
Mm,
the 7. There's one called Southern Charm, and it's okay, but again, it's got that kind of vanilla-y thing to it.
hmm.
Um, I tried some After Hours Flake from Cornell and Deal.
Indeed, yeah.
That stuff's good.
Well, if you really like the Pegasus, Cornell and Deal really does a phenomenal job with American style burleys. Um, so the next ones people are probably going to tell you that you need to try are things like Old Joe Krantz and Haunted Bookshop.
Yeah, I'm a I'm a little head on the Haunted Bookshop.
Good
I've
deal.
got I've got that sitting there. I don't think I've got any Old Joe Krantz. I've heard it come up. Trying to think about what I actually have here. I got some Stokeby. I'm excited about Father Dempsey.
Hmm.
This stuff. Somebody was telling me about it, and it seems like my kind of thing. Just haven't broke into it yet.
There are a lot of guys in the YTPC that really like that. Um, it is definitely a popular blend.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Haunted Bookshop and Old Joe Krantz. Old Joe Krantz is basically the same ingredients as Haunted Bookshop. It's burley red Virginia and Perique, but Old Joe Krantz has a higher proportion of red Virginia to the other two ingredients, so it's a little tangier. Where Haunted Bookshop has got a little more of the rough and tumble burley flavor. And a lot of folks, Haunted Bookshop is kind of one of those polarizing blends. Not a lot of folks on the fence.
Yeah. I
You either
I
like
kind
it
of
or
I kind of picked that one up.
yeah. Old Joe Krantz though I think is probably a little more popular just because of the higher uh, red Virginia content, but it still has enough burley that there are people in it that people that just don't like it.
See, I
Uh,
got one of the guys that was sitting around in the shop gave me some RC1 by Sutliff,
mm-hmm.
and it's just got this intense vinegarness to it, and that's fantastic. That was like, I was kind of complaining about the aromatic thing, and I was like, because at one point I was like, I don't know if this is really for me. I'm just not a this whole vanilla cherry sort of thing to me
Well, that tangy
just wasn't my
vinegar is
thing.
your red Virginia. Wow.
Well, then that's enjoyable. That reminds me almost like a really good saison,
Mm.
something that's got some twang to it. It's the way to go.
And it definitely does. It definitely does. So now that you've got, you said you got a couple of Morgan Bones pipes. Are you uh, are you leaning toward any particular pipe shapes or makers yet?
Um, not particularly. Most of what I have is bent. I think I have a country gentleman that's straight, and I've got a little Italian from somebody, the basket pipe, little Italian basket pipe, and it's pretty much straight with a little bit of bend right at the end there, but pretty much everything else is all bent. The I've got two that I haven't even used yet. I kind of had to slow down on the pipe acquisition disorder that everybody's always talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, I've only really been enjoying a pipe for a few months now, and there's two Bones pipes. One of them isn't even broken in yet. I have an Italian basket pipe that's not broken in yet. There's the Country Gentleman that's got maybe 2 or 3 smokes on it. One that I ended up winning the Flat Caps 2K giveaway, and he sent me a very, very lovely meerschaum with all this beautiful lattice work in it, and I've yet to use it. And then recently I picked up myself a graduation gift, which isn't for another month or so, a Peterson 313, because I wanted a system pipe.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a system pipe yet. I've thought about it, but I'm not really big on bent pipes, and I think I think the 106 is one of the few that's a straight billiard that they make that's straight that has a system. I'm not sure. But I'm not big on the deep bends, and I think that's where the that system really helps you the most. Um, is in
Yeah,
trapping the moisture in that curvature.
the main reason I wanted it is I've never even used the Peterson. Like obviously this is my first one and it's sitting there unused. But for me it was the that turn of the century innovation. It's the
Yeah.
classic Irish gentleman's pipe. There's a lot of allure to it. I listen to
Hmm.
Malcolm talk too much.
Oh,
You know, all the reasons to own a
yeah,
Peterson.
and they're beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Now,
And
you have a very interesting channel, um, for particularly for someone who's new. You've come in with a new idea. What drove your choice of your channel name to start with?
the Society of Ordinary Gentlemen got started back well, I got hurt about a year ago. Well, March of 22, so a little over now. But I'd always had back problems and things like that. And this time I got down real bad. And they weren't sure if I was going to be able to like walk
Hmm.
and do things for myself anymore. And luckily, I'm starting to come around on that. But when I was kind of laid up in bed, there was a list full of things. I call it my "I'll die when I'm done" list because it's much better than a things to get done before you die list.
Right.
And on it, one of them was start a social club because the whole idea of it was I was sitting around and I was doing the thing where you just kind of lay there and scroll through social media and you get to hear about all the terribleness that happens in the world and how
Hmm.
it's all falling apart. And at some point, I said to myself that what the world really needs is just a bunch of ordinary gentlemen, just some normal people that all get together and do something positive. So that was where the Society of Ordinary Gentlemen originally came from. How it turned into the YTPC and pipes and everything else, luck, I guess. Flat Cap for that whole thing was like, you need to make a video response to me, and I made one video response, and that was about it. And now this whole thing happened.
Now, on your channel, you have a rather interesting seller. What sparked that idea?
Well, the the whole concept behind the ordinary gentleman seller, the whole software side of things is all from a program I was putting together for school. It's called Capsule. It's the Computer Aided Design Architecture Program Studies Utilizing Linked Environment, or Capsule, because it's much easier to say than all of those things strung out. But
Hmm.
it's a markdown based system designed by two Canadian software engineers, and their program's called Obsidian. And it's basically once you get used to doing the typey type, and I'm sure you've got a handle on it. And I'm going to do the best to explain it to people who aren't tech heavy into like writing their own code and things like that. But it's essentially just a database. So I decided that since like I said, I got hurt, and one of the problems with that when I got hurt is I had a lot of memory issues. So that's the way Capsule came about. Was I knew I needed to get back into school, and I was having like cognitive dysfunction things happening to me, and I said, I've got to figure out a way to make it possible for me to go to school."
Yeah.
And so I went down this whole rabbit hole of different note taking techniques. I sat around and studied like 8 hours a day on different learning techniques, how to best help people that were in my situation. I'm also dyslexic, and I got some of those other. The new key term for it is neurodivergencies. That's the way they want to term them nowadays. I've got some neurodivergencies, and I don't know if people are very familiar with computer aided design or drafting work and things like that, but it's very detail oriented. It's math intensive for the most part, and it gets pretty complex. So all things that are a problem if you have some mental stuff going on. So I needed a way to keep track of all that information. So I built Capsule. And it just so happens that all of the work that I did there is really handy for keeping track of all of your tobaccos and how much you're using stuff and things like that. But
So the other seller that you're building, um, people can join. Tell us a little bit about that.
oh yeah, the virtual seller project, which is something I just randomly started. So I don't know how much people are familiar with Twitch or things like that, but I did a little bit of Twitch streaming at one point in time because I'm a video game person. And one of the things they have there, which I always thought was neat, is when you went to somebody's channel, if you're there often, you would get access to little icons or things like that, something special that's just for that community. So, kind of carrying on that idea, I came up with the idea of just making a virtual seller. So, anybody who's a member at the Society of Ordinary Gentlemen, just as like a kind of a tip of the cap to them, is to make them up an icon that says, you know, here's your blend, something that's specifically for you. And they track through the bottom of my video, or if I'm doing live streams and stuff like that. I don't have the feature turned on right now. I actually probably could. Let's see if it'll come through. There we go. Right there in the corner of my
Yeah.
screen. And let's see whose is that? That's Tunnel Takes. That's sitting down there, and
Little
it
shout out
cycles
right
through.
there.
Yeah. But I forget how many there are now. I think there's almost 45, 46 of them now. And just for privacy reasons, if people aren't like publicly subscribed, or if they're not a content creator themselves, we don't do one without somebody asking, just because I don't want to, like, that video could be watched by who knows how many people, and I don't want to just have somebody's username floating there without, like, if it's public, that's one thing. If you do this sort of thing, like you're a content creator, then that's another thing. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that,
You don't really need my permission to put Parsimonious Piper out there. I'm
yeah,
yeah. I'm doing enough to myself this way.
yeah. People are very aware that you exist.
Well, hopefully the right people. You know,
I don't think there are too many wrong people in this community.
no.
I'm sure they're out there, but
So
I
you
haven't ran across any of them.
so you got into the YTPC just sort of by accident.
Mhm.
Uh,
100% by accident.
what as you've explored different channels, what do you like about the community?
Oh, there's a bunch of different things to like. It just depends. There's enough diversity in content. No matter what you're looking for, you can find it. There's a lot of people doing sit and chats, like a bunch of live streams where,
Hmm?
people just sitting around enjoying their time, talking with one another. So if that community style thing is your vibe, that's something. And I do hang out a lot in a bunch of those live streams. Uh, there's all sorts of people that do 101 videos. That was what actually, the whole reason I got into the thing is I found hobby something I wanted to do, and then I did exactly what a person like me always does. Uh, Google searches, hit Reddit, hit YouTube, find 15, 20 different people so I can cross reference a bunch of stuff, load it all into my nice little database, and go to town and just start looking at things. What will I like? What will I not? What I want? So if you're into that blend review sort of thing, there's a lot of that's happening. And then there's that whole side of the YTPC that you don't initially see when you're coming in, because of course you're coming in for like the overlying chats and all of the hey, this is my cool new pipes. Here's things you might be interested in. And then you find something like the moral uplifting content. The kind of, I call it more the background content of the YTPC, where you're coming in and it's somebody like SoCal,
Mm-hmm.
and you see in one of his shorts, uh, one of your cares videos. Those are the things that you're not initially greeted with when you first find the community, and then you start finding all of the brotherhood aspect of it and the uplifting aspect of it and the core community once you start diving a little bit, which is kind of cool. So I
And
very much appreciate that side of the community most, but who doesn't like seeing new pipes or checking out blends?
mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I certainly agree there. I've got way too many tins of things unopened. It was interesting you mentioned cutting back on your pad early on, because that's that's an easy trap to fall into. A couple of the guys just within the last week have done videos on, advising new pipe smokers to slow it down with the pipe purchases, because over time you're going to discover the style of pipe, whether straight or bent or rusticated or smooth, shapes, brands that you like, and you don't want to have accumulated 30 pipes and find out that only two or three of them you really smoke very often. Uh, you know, I give the same advice now about tobacco acquisition disorder, because you go out and you buy, 1 tin of a bunch of different things, and you may find that uh, quite a large number of them are similar enough that you either do or don't like them, but you don't really need them all. And I have found myself in that very position. So I am preaching to the choir. Those fingers are pointed right back at me. Um, but yeah, slowing down on the purchases, boy, I would have, at least on the tobacco side. Pipes, I got into collecting a brand, so there's not really much I can do about my pad.
Yeah, but I think I'll agree with on the long term follies of that quick pipe acquisition disorder, mostly because I tried the Country Gentleman of all things. It come filtered,
Mm.
and I didn't realize that it came filtered. And I sat down and I was like, "This is really nice. Oh, I enjoy this a lot." I don't know, because when I first got into it, they were talking to me at the local brick and mortar, and they were like, "Hey, just get a corn cob, throw one of these aromatics in it, and try things." I didn't want to go that route though, because for whatever reason I thought, I'm a fairly young guy, and you know I'm in the South, so like when I think corn cob, it's always like somebody's great uncle Jim, and he's got his corn cob pipe,
No,
and
you're in the South. That's Billy Jim Joe Bob.
yeah, Billy Jim Joe Bob. Yes, indeed. I know him very well. I know him very, very well. And I was like, it's kind of hokey, I don't think corn cobs are my style. I want something like wood, more sophisticated, something, because I always wear suits. Like I'm never not in at least a button down and a tie. And I'm like, I'm in a fairly nice suit. I don't want to like a corn cob. And now I think the corn cob might be my favorite out of all of them, mostly because it accepts a filter.
Well,
And
about half of them do. Yeah, Missouri Meerschaum, about half their line are filtered, and the other half are not. Most of the ones with the forever stems, I don't know if they've put any of those acrylic stems on and drilled them out for filters yet. Um, it's mostly the cheap plastic stems that'll take their 6 millimeter type filters.
yeah, but I think that's one of the things that got me out of all the things that I enjoy all the pipes that I have now. But right after I tried something filtered, I was like, I think I might enjoy filtered a little more. And now I have a Bones pipe I have two Bones pipes that are unfiltered, a nice Italian pipe that's unfiltered, the Meerschaum doesn't take a filter, the Peterson doesn't take a filter, and I'm like, I'm already trying to think to myself, is there a way to get a replacement P-lip stem for that Peterson that accepts a 9 mil filter?
Yeah, I don't know. I I don't. I'm not familiar enough with Peterson to know. Maybe one of our viewers can leave a comment um, that lets us know about that, or whether they've had any experience with one of the guys like Tim West who will make a custom stem if he'll do a P-lip style stem, but drill the pipe out to take a filter. I I don't know.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, I don't. I'm definitely the wrong person to ask.
I
I'm
know.
sure somebody could do it, but
And I'm sure somebody has. It's a matter of whether they do it consistently enough to sell it. I have found with the corncob pipes, and I love them, that the rare occasions that I wind up smoking a goopy aromatic because my wife likes the aroma, a a corncob with a balsa filter just seems to absorb so much more of the gunk, and make it enjoyable for me, or at least tolerable for me, and enjoyable for my wife. Uh, those balsa filters are something else. I've never tried a balsa filter in a briar pipe. I know Savinelli made. I don't know if they still do, but they made balsa filters for a while, and so I assume there are people who have used them in briar pipes, but I just always associate them with cobs.
yeah, uh, I think SMR is the one who got me interested in the filter thing.
Hmm.
Because everything he runs is all 9 mil now,
Right.
and I don't know. It just seems like it gets rid of a lot of the stuff that I don't like and allows me to just enjoy some flavor. At least that one particular cob with that filter, that's all the experience I've got. But if whatever I happen to be using seems like it's got a little bit more of that oily kind of presence, I
Hmm.
don't enjoy that so much, and a filter seems to kind of calm that down some.
Yep. And there are few topics out there in the pipe world that can be more divisive than filter or no filter. And you will find people who are strong believers in both. And then you've got, I do think that the majority of us don't really care. If you like them, use them. If you don't. But yeah, you will definitely find a few personalities out there who will tell you, well, if you're smoking a pipe with a filter, you're not really smoking a pipe. That kind of nonsense just drives me bats.
And they used to before before I got into this new line of work, I used to manage a vapor facility.
Mm,
What we did, and it that kind of reminds me of the sub ohm versus standard ohm sort of thing, and their community divided right down the middle as well. There was those people who were like, it's standard ohms, one or higher, or it's I don't care what and it kind of divided along an age line too, because like all of the older folks that had been around for a while, that was the technology they came up on. And then everything got more advanced, and there was a lot of like DNA boards and things coming in, and then the ohm level started dropping, and now this new sub ohm stuff, that's that's something totally different. And there was this huge dividing line that happened through the community over whether or not you should be standard ohmed or sub ohmed.
Now, you mentioned outside of pipes, you mentioned that you're into gaming. What
Mm-hmm.
we've got? We definitely have some gamers in the group. What kind of gaming are you interested in?
I'm mostly a FPS player. I used to be fairly good at it back in like the original Halo series stuff.
Hmm.
I I played for a team that was playing on a circuit called Game Battles, so they're like the step into the MLG series stuff. So I played Halo at the top 500-ish in the world level for a little while, and nowadays I'm not into it anymore. I don't have 8 hours a day of my life to dedicate to that, what is a professional level sort of thing.
Yeah.
So mostly I play pickup games of Apex now. I want to get to the new Harry Potter game, something fierce, but being that I'm still in school and I know what sort of life drain that will be on me, I'm like, okay, we'll wait until after we're gonna get good graduated and then get us a nice job at a firm with the good benefits and everything.
Probably a
Then we'll buy
wise
that.
choice. Yeah, probably a wise choice. Now,
Because I
before we started recording, just as a little background, the two of us were chatting a little bit about um early origins and my background in the applied math side of digital imagery, like he's doing with CAD. Um, were you aware that Microsoft originally bought Halo from another company back when the game was called Marathon? It was a
yeah,
Mac. It was a Mac only game back in the day, and yeah, that it's funny that that's one of the games that you liked because I played the original back in grad school quite a bit.
nice,
Um,
nice.
well, yeah, some of those things, yeah, they some do go way back. Well, maybe not grad school. Maybe it was right after grad school. It's probably mid '90s, mid to late '90s. But yeah,
That's pretty cool.
then Microsoft bought them and shut down the Mac side of things. Of course, the way they always do.
Of course they did. Then what was it? Bungie?
Hmm.
Wasn't Bungie the studio that did it originally?
Yep.
And
Yes.
then three whatever studio came in at like 3 or 4 and started destroying the series. I got out of it after about 3 was the last good game to me, and then when it changed hands, they started trying to modernize it,
Mm.
and it lost everything that was great about it. Because the whole purpose of it was balance perfectly symmetrical maps, balance weaponry, you versus me, and it was a pure skill game. Like there wasn't an advantage to be had one way or the other. It was perfectly symmetrical, and then it was all skill. And then they wanted to bring in all this other stuff like shield advancements and cool little gadgets and gizmos that destroyed that balance.
Yeah.
But
Well, you mentioned first person shooters. The the ones that I cut my teeth on were again some of the old Mac ones. Wolfenstein 3D and Doom were originally Mac games. Um, the I'm trying to think what was the other one. Now this one wasn't Mac, but used to play Call of Duty, and
Mhm.
the ones that I liked were the original. There were two or three that were based on World War II campaigns,
Mhm.
and I really liked those because it wasn't a matter of you know gaining weapons that didn't exist at the time. You basically had to figure out what your arsenal was going to be, and you could pick up better weapons along the way from fallen enemies and that sort of thing. But I really liked the campaign modes. Of course, those were single player games as well. They weren't the big um, what is it, MM massively
MMORPG.
RPG. I remember the role playing game, online role playing game, but it's what's the second M?
It's
Massively multiplayer or something like that.
yeah, MMO, massively multiplayer online role playing games. MMORPG.
And I never got into any of those. It was always just the staying up late at night and challenging myself to get through a campaign, that sort of thing.
And see, I never got into the MMO side of things just because it wasn't my deal. I played a lot of Fable and a whole bunch of Elder Scrolls stuff like that, but I never got into the huge
Warcraft.
like yeah Warcraft. I watched uh lovingly refer to it as the internet crack consume a whole bunch of my friends' lives at the time. I mean, like just school Warcraft,
Yeah.
and they would play until 1, 2, 3 in the morning, catch 2 or 3 hours of sleep, go to school, and they would sit in school thinking about being home playing Warcraft. And like, it's amazing. There is at least a little bit of truth to that addicted to video games
Mhm.
narrative they push. There were some people that were
Well,
definitely.
you get an adrenaline rush from it. So, there is definitely an addictive quality to gaming, you know, and yeah, you can derail your studies or your work pretty easily, following down one of those rabbit holes. So yeah, I think you're probably wise to hold off on the new Harry Potter game until you've got your feet under you.
Yeah, because I know exactly what will happen. I'll be sitting around going, it's about 9:45. I'll just run over here. I'll do this real quick. And then at about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, when I should have been asleep already, I'll be like, I can just run over here and I'll do this real quick. And right now, luckily, the whole plan of school and everything's going fantastically. I get to graduate with honors. I'm doing all of the special stuff that you should be doing. And I'm in talks with a whole bunch of nice folks to land a good job at a nice firm. So I'm gonna got about a year and a half tied up in that right now. I want to make sure that that's all well taken care of beforehand. A lot of work to undo with a video game.
Well, to wind things down just a little bit, I got two questions left for you. The first one's a little bit of a two-parter, and it's one that I've started asking people just to get a bit of an idea of what they like in their area. So, where you live, if someone were to have you as a tour guide, what would be the one thing that you would say that they would need to do?
It's a bit of a drive from where I'm at, but the Pinson Mounds Archaeology Park
Hmm.
in a place called Pinson, Tennessee. It's the place to go. It was a mound site that the natives built up out there, and it was basically a trading center, a hub for this area. And there's a giant mound there, probably about 100 foot worth of dirt, all put together by hand. And they found buckets as far away of dirt from like Seattle, which
Hmm.
means it was so important that everybody shared the lands there that somebody filled a bucket full of dirt
Hmm.
and carried that bucket from Washington all the way here just to make sure that they had a bit of their land at the common ground. And
Okay.
it's a really interesting place.
Is that Penson? Penson?
Uh, oh, my dyslexic self is not good at spelling. I believe it is.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. See, I'm familiar with Tennessee pretty well, but I never heard of that. So this is one of the benefits of asking the question is that I get to learn something.
Yeah,
So that definitely sounds fascinating.
yeah. It's a solar calendar as well.
Hmm.
So the mounds and their arrangement, I think there's 29 different mound sites on their park grounds there, and there's one that lines up with the solstice. There's an equinox.
Huh.
There's like different shift mounds. There's burial mounds that align with specific celestial bodies. Uh, one of the park rangers out there at one point in time, he's since moved on to a different park, but they had this one mound that they could not figure out what it was there for. Like everything else lined up with something, and they couldn't figure out what this mound was there for until the whole alignment with Mars happened a little while back, and then they realized that that particular mound was there to line up with that event.
Hmm.
And when it was being built, it was probably the last time that alignment happened.
Wow.
And they're thinking that, of course, this is all just theoretical at this point, but they're thinking if you follow the exact alignment of that, it heads all the way down to South America, where there's a temple that's built. And if you follow that line all the way back, following the same path and the amount of time it would have took them to make said journey, when they come back, we have agricultural corn as a product showing up here at right around the time the timeline would work out. Of course, there's a lot of much smarter than me people. I want to preface it, much smarter than me people who are doing all of the nice necessary sciences to try to prove that out. That's way above my abilities. It's
That's
just a story I
interesting.
was told at one point in time, and I thought it was quite interesting.
That is fascinating. All right. Last question. Have you got any parting words or something you'd like to say for our YTPC audience?
Uh, that's a difficult question.
I know.
Very difficult question. Uh, we'll start with thanks. We'll start with thanking everybody because there was a lot of support that just kind of showed up. It just materialized, and that's awesome. Especially because I had no intention of actually doing this when I made the first video. I was just like, okay, we'll make a quick video, and I've done some streaming stuff and stuff like that before, and I was like, we'll just put some stuff together. We'll load up some OBS. We'll make the man his video response video that he asked for, and that'll be it. And then a handful of people showed up, and then another video and another handful of people showed up, and then it's weird because, like I said, I've only been doing this about 4 months, but there's people that I feels like I've known for a decade.
That can happen pretty quickly here.
And I'm just like, so I don't really know what to say, what parting words to really say other than just thanking people.
Well, that is a perfectly appropriate message to close with. So, well, thank you for coming on. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat. I will tell our group what I tell you every time. While you're watching this, light something you like, enjoy your afternoon.